What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NBA Saturday, September 19th. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's NBA slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, NBA playoffs. Let's take a look at this NBA showdown between the Boston Celtics and the Miami Heat. Okay, so I'm going to start off just giving you my favorite plays to start, all the way down to my least favorite plays, but I like all these guys. So let's kick it off here. I like Marcus Smart from the Boston Celtics playing the Miami Heat, who have a good defense overall. They've been good versus opposing shooting guards. Marcus Smart has averaged 29.5 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 32 minutes per game with a 19% usage rate. He scored 27, 28, and 38 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 37, 43, and 43 minutes. He's projected at 30.2 fantasy points here tonight. So just keep an eye. If Gordon Hayward comes back, you may want to fade off of Marcus Smart. It may eat into his minutes. But if he's going to be out there for 37 to 43 minutes in this game, I think he's a great price point. He's a nice value play. So I like Marcus Smart here versus the Miami Heat. Okay, the next guy I like, I was wrong about him. Last video I said I didn't want to go with him. He's a little too risky. He's a little too hot and cold. And he is. Some games are just off for this guy, but he seems to do pretty well versus the Heat. So I like Kemba Walker from the Boston Celtics playing the Miami Heat, who have a good defense overall. They've been good versus opposing point guards. Kemba Walker has averaged 34.3 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game with a 27% usage rate. He scored 40, 32, and 35 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 33, 42, and 43 minutes. He's projected at 37.4 fantasy points here tonight. Oh, and Vegas thinks there's going to be 207.5 points scored in this game, but this is a showdown, so that game total doesn't matter too much. But I like Kemba Walker here versus the Miami Heat. Next guy I like is Tyler Hero from the Miami Heat playing the Boston Celtics, who have a good defense overall. They've been good versus opposing shooting guards. Both these teams have good defenses, but I'll give you the matchups anyways. He's averaged 22.5 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 27 minutes per game with a 23% usage rate. He scored 29, 37, and 36 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 32, 40, and 36 minutes. He's projected at 30.8 fantasy points here tonight. So I like Tyler Hero here versus the Boston Celtics. The next guy I like is Goran Dragic from the Miami Heat playing the Boston Celtics. They've got a good defense overall, good versus opposing point guards. Goran Dragic has averaged 27.7 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 28 minutes per game with a 26% usage rate. He scored 34, 45, and 22 fantasy points in his last 3 games, playing 34, 38, and 33 minutes. He's projected at 33.5 fantasy points here tonight. So I like Goran Dragic here versus the Boston Celtics. Now, if you're looking for the stud with what I think has the most upside, take a look at Jayson Tatum from the Boston Celtics playing the Miami Heat, who who have a good defense overall, and they've been middle of the pack defending opposing power forwards. Jayson Tatum has averaged 40.8 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game with a 29% usage rate. He scored 34, 66, and 57 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 41, 43, and 44 minutes. I think he bounces back here tonight. He didn't have a good game last game. Only 34 fantasy points. That's not going to get it done for you with the salary you're paying for him. But he's projected at 46.4 fantasy points here tonight. So I think he bounces back here tonight in a must-win game with the Boston Celtics. They're down 2-0. They need a win here tonight. So I like Jayson Tatum here versus the Miami Heat.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
The other stud I like is Bam Adebayo. He plays the Celtics really well. I'll just give you real quick. He scored 46, 45, 43, 34, and 22 fantasy points in the last 5 games versus the Celtics. 46 and 45 in the last 2 versus the Celtics. So he plays the Celtics well. But he's averaged 40.3 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game with a 21% usage rate. He scored 46, 45, and 18 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 35, 42, and 30 minutes. He's projected at 43.5 fantasy points here tonight. So I like Bam Adebayo here versus the Boston Celtics. And if you're looking for a value play here, take a look at Jay Crowder from the Miami Heat playing the Boston Celtics, who have a good defense overall, and they're middle of the pack defending opposing small forwards. Jay Crowder has averaged 24.7 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 29 minutes per game with a 16% usage rate. He scored 28, 37, and 31 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 36, 39, and 32 minutes. He's projected at 27.2 fantasy points here tonight, so I like Jay Crowder here versus the Boston Celtics. Okay, and the last stud here, this isn't my last pick, but I've given you all the studs. I just wanted to give you their last 3 games, their fantasy points, and the minutes they've been playing. So I like Jimmy Butler from the Miami Heat playing the Boston Celtics, who have a good defense overall. They've been good versus opposing shooting guards. Jimmy Butler has averaged 41.8 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game with a 25% usage rate. He scored 34, 38, and 36 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 35, 43, and 37 minutes. He's projected at 38.5 fantasy points here tonight. So I like Jimmy Butler here versus the Boston Celtics, but not as much as I like Bam Adebayo or Jayson Tatum if you're looking for studs. But Butler can get it done for you. Okay, another value play that I like. This might be my favorite value play on the slate here. He hasn't really had a good run the last 3 games. This guy was scoring consistently 30-plus fantasy points and just hasn't been doing it lately, but he can do it any night here. So I like Daniel Tice from the Boston Celtics playing the Miami Heat, who have a good defense overall. They've been good versus opposing power forwards. Daniel Tice has averaged 24.4 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 24 minutes per game with a 15% usage rate. He scored 19, 16, and 19 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 31, 35 and 23 minutes. He's projected at 22.3 fantasy points here tonight, but he's got that 30-plus fantasy point upside. He was flashing it almost every single game for a while now, then he's cooled off, but he's low salary, so he's a nice value play. So I like Daniel Tice here versus the Miami Heat. And then I like Jaylen Brown from the Boston Celtics playing the Miami Heat, who have a good defense overall, and they're middle of the pack defending opposing small forwards. Jaylen Brown has averaged 33.4 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game with a 25% usage rate. He scored 30, 28, and 44 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 39, 43, and 42 minutes. I think he has a huge game here tonight. He is a little bit risky though. He's kind of hot and cold as well, but it's a must-win game for the Celtics. I think he turns it on. He is projected at 35.7 fantasy points here tonight. So I like Jaylen Brown here versus the Miami Heat.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.